Thank you so much, Randy, for talking today about the new accountability. I'm with Randy Weingarten, the president of the American Federation of Teachers, and you've thought a lot about this issue. What should accountability in this new era be about?
So first, let me just say thank you, Linda, because you've thought about this, and it's been great to have a thought partner like you in thinking about what schools should be responsible for and how do we do that. So the new accountability should be a tool for how we help kids succeed, how we make sure that kids are not left behind, how we use data in a way that's thoughtful, but how we have the strategies to help children succeed. And we have to juxtapose that against what the old accountability was, which for the last 20 years has essentially been hammer, 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 sanction, 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 and embarrass, embarrass, embarrass. That's not going to help all kids succeed, as we have seen, because if it did, No Child Left Behind would have been, a huge success. And now everyone and his mother and brother and sister and everybody else is trying to run away from it. So we need an accountability system that helps schools build the capacity of the teaching force, have the kind of rich curriculum that kids need, have the resources that they need, have the wraparound services that kids need, but make sure that we're always on track to ensure that kids have the meaningful knowledge and skills that they need to succeed in life, in college, and in career.
What should we be doing around both shaping what schools do and holding them accountable to accomplish that?
So I think it falls into three different buckets, for lack of a better word. Number one is, what is it that we want kids to be learning? And how do we show that? And how do we see that? So consequently, we need to be thinking about a lot more than tests and test scores. Project-based instruction, portfolio assessments, things like we've seen in the Performance Consortium schools in New York, which show by the strategies they've used, you see a lot of different and exciting and innovative and creative learning for kids and a lot of excitement in schools. So number one is, what are the different measures of learning that we need to look at? Number two is that teachers obviously matter. Administrators matter. So we need to have a support and improve system for both teachers and schools. A system of building the capacity of educators, where we actually have educators, or we're asking educators to think about the following three questions. Do I have the tools that I need to do my job? If so, either individually and collectively, have I taught it? And have kids learned it? Those are three separate questions. And you can actually deal with teacher evaluation within the context of answering those three questions. But the third bucket is resources, which is that if 2/3 of the achievement gap comes from things other than what happens in schools, and in schools we know that smaller class sizes matter, professional development matters, resources for kids matter, it's time to stop saying to schools, you need to do the following 100 things, and just do your best and do more with less. We need to actually have the community responsible for these things, and frankly, that's what people want. They, by 3-to-1 basis in this last election, in exit polls that we've seen since this last election, have said, we need to increase funding for the things that matter in schools. And we make sure when we're thinking about all that, we're thinking much more than reading, writing, and arithmetic. We're thinking about social and emotional learning and the kinds of things we know that kids need to be successful in life, college, and career.
That's really a wonderful vision. And if we think about a world in which that is really on the table, that people are working on the resource question, they're building the professional capacity, they're really looking for ways to both develop and reflect and measure meaningful learning. What do we do in circumstances where schools really continue to struggle, seem like they're not improving.
Right.
What should we do both to recognize those schools, to address the problems? You know, where does the sort of corrective action fall in this scheme?
So at the end of the day, one of the reasons you need data is that you need, not just for the community to see it, you need for schools to see it, you need for parents to see it, you need for teachers to see it. Data actually, both quantitative and qualitative data, actually informs instruction. But the data has to be robust. It can't simply be a test score. It needs to be really robust. But frankly, the first thing we should be doing is we should be fixing, not closing, struggling schools. And we should actually think about how do we attract and retain and support experienced teachers, teachers who know what they're doing, to come to schools where kids need them the most. And so if your immediate reaction is you're going to close those schools, why would anybody do that? So we need to actually have a climate where we're thinking about how to fix, not close, neighborhood public schools, and really attract and retain and support the best and the brightest to help our kids that need them the most. But say we're unsuccessful. You can't take closing schools off the table. If nothing is working after you've given it your best shot in a meaningful period of time, then you have to do things like closing schools and redesigning them, like we've done with the Oliver School in Lawrence, Massachusetts, or with the Julia Richmond schools in New York City. So you can't ever say, no, we'll never close schools, but you have to give people a chance with the resources to try to turn things around, like we did in the Chancellor's District. And in the Chancellor's District in New York City, in the first year, 39 of the 40 schools were taken off the corrective action list. So there is a way in which communities see us rolling up our sleeves, working together to fix schools. And if it doesn't work, after you've really tried and done the right things, then we may have to close schools.
So I remember the Julia Richmond Education Complex, where the school was big, comprehensive high school, 2/3 of the kids were dropping out, it was failing, the graffiti and broken windows, and the police were there all the time. They gradually phased out that program in that building. They hot-housed new schools in other buildings, but then they brought them in after they'd refurbished the building. I think it was 4 small high schools, a middle school for autistic kids, a elementary school, a nursery school, which serves the kids of pregnant and parenting teens as well as other people in the community, a health center, a teacher center. When you think about that approach to closing schools, what would we need to do to make that kind of powerful solution to reopening the schools work?
So the first thing you need trust. You need to build trust, and you need to build agency. Because because we need to actually overcome a lot of mistrust. Because in lots of places in the country, Philadelphia, Chicago, New York, there was an abdication strategy that said just, if you in the school can't figure out yourself how to fix yourself, and we're not really giving you any resources, we're just telling you got to fix it, we're not going to help you, and if you don't, we're closing you down and putting a charter in, or using it for condos or for something else. And so we have to actually overcome that mistrust that there's an ulterior motive about why a school would be closed. And so that's going to take some work with communities to build that trust. And that's why the second piece is to really thinking about, in a school community itself, how you work with them to try and create different strategies. Sizing the school differently, having different magnets within a school, trying to create some smallness, not just in small classes, but in different groups of students together, having a little nursery school. And it's important to try to fix a school because our communities don't want to see their schools shuttered. They want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to make a school great for the kids in the neighborhoods.
Your last word of advice to our federal and state leaders on this question?
So we've seen throughout this country that people want as their first choice great neighborhood public schools. We have a lot of experience about how to help create that. We have a lot of research about how to help do that. We owe it to the American people, we owe it to kids in this country to do that as our first approach and to use accountability to help make that happen, as opposed to accountability being a hammer or a sanction.
Thank you so much, Randi.
Thank you, Linda.
Great to talk to you about this.
Thank you.